Hey, what's up, guys? It's not much of a secret that knowing and understanding your business's financial numbers is extremely important. In fact, I know a lot of successful entrepreneurial mentor types will argue that it is the most important thing that a small business owner should know. But let's face it, a lot of small painting company business owners don't know their numbers, or at least don't know them as well as they should. But it's not because we don't want to. It's because accounting, well, it's difficult to understand, it's hard to do and use, and it also can be pretty expensive. So I wanted to focus on those three things to help empower my fellow painters, because I know from personal experience how monumental it can be to really know your numbers. So I wanted to make it easy to understand, easy to do, and best of all, cheap. So first, let's focus on why is this so difficult to understand? Well, people go to college for 4 years to get a degree in this stuff, so I guess it's understanding how it can be really confusing and overwhelming. But don't worry, for a small painting company, it can actually be pretty simple and easy. So I'm going to give you an extremely basic rundown of accounting and what it is, but hopefully while doing so can explain that it is actually something that you can do and understand. So really, accounting is organizing your financial transactions into useful reports. The reports are useful so you can do like comparative analysis, see, how'd you do from last year to this year? How do you compare to other painting companies? You can also get insights into the financial health of a company over time and do other things like compute how much you owe in taxes. Now I realize accounting is this vague word and there's a lot of confusion on exactly what it is, which is part of the reason why it's so confusing and overwhelming. I know it's common to hear a word or term and just think, oh, that's some accounting thing I kind of understand. But usually those are their own separate things that create financial transactions and therefore are related to accounting. Because remember, accounting is just organizing those transactions. An example would be processing credit card payments. That's actually a merchant service that you pay for, but since it creates financial transactions, it gets tied up with this idea of accounting and just makes it seem like some huge, complicated, overwhelming thing to understand. But all I'm trying to get you to realize is accounting is just organizing those financial transactions into useful reports. Now you may be thinking, I thought accounting is what accountants do at the end of the year to do my taxes. But really, they're filling out government documents on your behalf. And the information they put on those documents comes from those reports, which you are going to give them. Or if you don't have them, you're going to give them your financial transactions and they're going to create the reports from them. And the reason business owners pay accountants to do this is because they specialize in the skill of interpreting those reports in the best legal way that allows them to file that government paperwork so that you get the most value, usually in the form of saving money on your taxes, just like how a client would pay a painter to paint a house because they specialize in that skill. Now, as a business owner, you don't have to specialize in that skill, but what you should do is look at your financial statements often, really study them and understand them. This can empower you and is often the difference between somebody who does well and somebody who doesn't do well. It gives you the tools you need to be successful. So let me show you how we simplify this and make it actually pretty easy. Those financial reports, there's three main ones, okay? There's an income statement, which is also known as your profit and loss statement, or they'll abbreviate it to a P&L. There's a balance sheet, and then there's a cash flow statement. But luckily for us as small painting business owners, there's a trick we can do that combines two of those financial statements into one, making it a lot more simple and easy. Let me explain. In accounting, there's two main methods. One is called accrual and the other is called a cash basis. Now, accrual is when you count revenue or expenses when they happen. For instance, if you painted somebody's house for $5,000, you would count earning that $5,000 right when you finish painting their house, even though that client took a couple weeks and dragged their feet to pay you. Now, if you're doing cash-based accounting, you would actually count that $5,000 when you received the $5,000 a couple weeks later, not when you finished the house. Now, there are a lot of advantages of doing a cash-based accounting for a small painting business owner, one of which I already explained. If you do it that way, it combines the P&L and the cash flow statement into one statement so that you only need one and don't have to have two separate ones. The other reason why it's super useful is it eliminates some of those transactions. It just makes it, in my opinion, a lot simpler and easier to understand. You count the dollar that you were given when you actually got the dollar versus making a transaction when they told you they'd give you the dollar and another transaction when you actually receive the dollar. It's just a lot simpler and easier. The transactions that are actually on your bank statement, those are the transactions that you need to organize. All right, so now we've simplified this into just two financial reports, the P&L and the balance sheet. Let's talk about that balance sheet for a second. The reason it's called a balance sheet is because it has two sides and they are in balance, meaning they equal each other. On one side, you have what's called assets, and on the other side, you have something called equity and liabilities. Now, assets, mainly for a small painting company, is the cash you have in the bank. You can also count the money that people owe you, like if you finish some jobs and you're still waiting for payment to come in. And you could also count any of the money that you could get if you sold the stuff the business owns, like maybe you have some sprayers and ladders. That's what assets are. Now, liabilities is pretty easy. In accounting terms, it's just everything that you owe. So if you've got a credit card balance, maybe you owe the paint store some money, maybe you have some payroll taxes coming up that you're gonna have to pay, or any loans that you have on the business, that's what your liabilities are. Now to understand equity, let's just look at that equation. We have assets equals equity plus liabilities. If we just subtract liabilities from both sides of the equation, a little algebra, we get rid of it on this side, and now it's assets minus liabilities equals equity. So all equity is everything that you have minus everything that you owe. What's left over is your equity. It's basically the business's net worth. Now here's the good news. For a small painting company, this is actually really easy. Let me explain. It's just 4 easy steps. Step 1, just write down how much money you have and how much money is owed to you. Step 2, write down how much money you owe. What's your credit card balance, how much do you owe the paint store. And then step 3, to figure out your equity, just take what you have minus what you owe, and boom, there's your equity. The last step, put a date on it. That's basically what a balance sheet is. Where this becomes complicated is on some huge publicly traded company that has many outfits and all these huge loans and different intricacies. But for a small painting company, it's really not that complicated and oftentimes not even that useful. And here's a little tip. Keep it simple. Unless you have a really good reason, don't make your balance sheet more complicated. Don't go get some loan or credit card if it's not needed. All right, you can see we're making this simple and easy. We combine 2 of those statements into one. See, the other one's really easy to make if you need it, and oftentimes you don't even need it. So as a small business owner, we've got this one financial statement that we really want to pay attention to, and this is the holy grail for a small business owner. You should be looking at it often, studying it, and really understanding it. Now, unfortunately, this one, it is actually really, really hard to make. But don't worry, today we have computers and it does all that hard work for us, so it's actually pretty easy. Now a P&L just shows how much profit or how much loss a business incurred over a period of time. But it organizes it in an extremely useful report that will tell you a ton about your business. All right, so that was a long rant trying to simplify and show you how accounting isn't that difficult. And hopefully that first reason doesn't discourage you from doing the accounting for your small business. All it is organizing your business transactions into one useful report, and that's it. Don't overthink it, that's all we're doing here. All right, so let's talk about the other 2 main reasons why a lot of painting company business owners don't actually do their accounting, because it is a little bit hard to do and understand, and because of that, if you decide to outsource it or pay for some program or something, it can be pretty expensive. All right, so if you hire an accounting firm, they're gonna take all the transactions from your business's accounts, whether that's bank accounts and credit cards, and they're gonna organize them. And in order to organize them, they're gonna ask you what are each one of these transactions. And after you tell them what they are, then they can provide those financial reports for you. So that's what I did. I just made a spreadsheet that does that for you. And it's really simple and easy to use. You're just gonna download all the transactions from your accounts, copy, paste them into the spreadsheet, and then label what each transaction is, and you're done. Then it just spits out a P&L for you. You can change the dates to see what it was over time. You can even click on the income or the expense to see all the transactions that happened in that period of time. I also included this gross profit tracker tab where you could enter every single job and see how you did on it in terms of your gross profit, see if you recognize any patterns. There's also an invoice maker that comes with this. You can watch my other videos if you want to learn more about the P&L, how to read it, and how this sheet actually works, but I just wanted to show you how easy it was in this video. But best of all, it's cheap. So unlike a software subscription where you have to pay each month to do this, or an accounting firm you have to pay them each month to do it, it's just a one-time fee. And I really hope that I help painters out there realize like accounting actually is super, super important. And it's actually not as difficult and confusing as you may have thought previously. And I really made it so easy to do and at such a good price that hopefully you almost feel guilty if you don't do it, because I'm promising you it can be one of the best things for your business. It'll give you the tools to make good decisions, to plan, and if something does go off, you'll know immediately why and when it happens, but only if you're doing your accounting. I know from personal experience, a whole year goes by, you think you had a good year, and it's like, what? That's all I made? Like, how did that happen? And it's better to know as it's happening so you can make those adjustments than when it's too late. So I hope you got some value from this video. If you want to let me know you did, just like, comment, or subscribe. It'll boost this video up on YouTube too, so it helps me out. I'll be coming out with a bunch more content. I already made one on how to hit your goals, and I said in there you have to know your profit margin and your gross profit, and that's what this accounting sheet will do. But upcoming, I'll show you exactly how do you plan it out, how do you do it, and how do you track it so that you know you're headed in the right direction. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.